I love that she announces it now. Welcome everyone to Roundabout Books author event with Kim Cooper Findling. My name is Julie and I am the events manager at Roundabout Books. We are very much looking forward to having in-person events happen again at the store. We're looking at those for September, but I did want to remind everyone that Kim has a second event with us this month on July 22nd. We're going to talk about her other book, Bad Writer, Bad Mommy. Did I say it? Did I get it the right? Good. I'm very excited about that one. I think it's just going to be really fun to hear everything. But tonight we're going to talk about this really awesome book called Off the Beaten Path, which is a series in and of itself. You can find them for other states. And this is the 12th edition of the Oregon one that was originally started in 1991 by a woman named Myrna Oakley. And Kim has had the pleasure of helping update it. So just a little bit about you for anyone on this call who doesn't know. Kim is the editor of Ben Magazine and the publisher of Dancing Moon Press, which has put out some really fun books in the last couple years that we've had some events for too, and is the author of Day Trips to the Oregon Coast, The Sixth Storm, co-authored with her daughter Libby, Bend, Oregon Daycations, and let's see here, Day Trips from Portland, Getaway Ideas for the Local Traveler. So Kim, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you because I'm really excited to see what's going on with the new edition of this book. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. Hi, everybody. I see a couple of familiar names in the boxes on my screen. So thanks for being here. I thought I would start by talking a little bit about how this book came to me. As Julie was saying, this is the 12th edition and it was authored by Myrna Oakley up until this round. And she retired and the press reached out to me and asked if I would take over the revisions. And I had 3 prior books with the same publishing company. So they had me on their radar and reached out and I said, sure, sounds great. I always loved the title of this book, you know, and the book itself, but just the off the beaten path kind of quirky Oregon has always been my gig. So I was happy to take it on. And then, as everyone on the planet is aware, last year turned out to be quite a very interesting and not very fun year. And it was a particularly rough year to write a travel book or to update a travel book. My edits were due in the summer in August. And so trying to do the research of all of the destinations in this book during the pandemic when places were, you know, literally closed, if maybe partially open, was rough. It was just emotionally rough, you know, to look at all these places and wonder who was going to make it, and just keep all of my fingers crossed that not only was the book that I was doing going to be accurate, but just knowing so many of these business people personally, because I've been working in this travel Oregon space for 20 years, you know, it was just a bit of a emotional journey, you know. And then right at the point where I was really done, I'd sent it in and I got back the final proofs, and that's when all of the fires swept through in the fall. Again, you know, rough year for Oregon and the planet. But it feels great to now be talking to you about this book, you know, from a really different place. I actually am walking the walk today. I'm in Lincoln City right now. I was in Newport yesterday, the advantage of a Zoom event, right? And, you know, to be out and about in Oregon feels so good, you know, and to see so many places that have survived and that are thriving again is really rewarding. So thank you for having me here, Julie. And it's nice for all of us to be on a little firmer footing. Okay, so that said, I have some slides to show you from around the state, just a little inspiration. I am not a photographer, but I definitely take photos when I'm out and about. So I just want to run through some favorite places in all 7 regions of Oregon, and then we will leave time for a Q&A for sure. So I'm gonna see if I can get this, let's see if I can do the screen share. So let's start at the Oregon coast. As I was saying, Oregon has 7 official regions. Those are designated by Travel Oregon, Oregon coast being one of them. And we're going to start on the North Oregon coast in Astoria and the Long Beach Peninsula. Let's see, my arrows aren't working. Oh, there it is. So this is my my stepdad and my kids a few years ago up on the Long Beach Peninsula, which is actually in Washington, as I'm sure you are aware, but I have always included Long Beach in my travel books. It's really kind of an extension of the Northern Oregon coast in some ways, and it's so close to Astoria. So here's a razor clam digging, which is a really fun thing that people love to do up there on the peninsula. It's a nice long flat beach, and Grandpa taught the girls how to razor clam dig. There are seasons that are designated. You have to know whether or not it's open season, but then once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy and super fun. For a lot of my writing has involved family travel angles because I have kids and because I often travel with my parents. So this is a really fun outing. There's my girls with their little clam, clam posing in the clam shell on a beautiful day up there. Of course, not everyone wears pink skirts to go clam digging, but that's what my younger daughter most definitely did. Here's all of the clams that we caught, and Grandpa did all of the hard work of cleaning them and making them into dinner. So always bring Grandpa. This is my husband and a little friend back in Oregon. Now we're in Astoria at the CLATSOP County Heritage Museum. Astoria is an amazing town with so much history. It's just one of the most, if you're into the history of Oregon, Astoria is a place that you really need to go visit. And the Heritage Museum is a great place to start because it kind of gives the summary. You know, this is where Lewis and Clark overwintered and where the first settlements were. And of course, the Oregon beaver was a big part of the fur trapping that first started happening in Oregon, our first industry, perhaps. Astoria Column is also an amazing destination in Astoria. There's my girls looking up at its wonderful tall peak, and then inside is a spiral staircase that you can climb a couple hundred steps to the top. Then you're already on top of a big hill in Astoria, so there's this amazing view. There are 3 rivers that flow through the area, including the Columbia, but you can see all of them from up there, and it's just a really amazing place to go sort of take in the rugged landscape and the Columbia Gorge up there. And then this is Fort Clatsop, which is of course where Lewis and Clark overwintered, another great historical destination, and also a great Oregon story because Fort Clatsop burned down. I don't know if you all remember that. Gosh, what has it been, 15 years ago or something now, and was rebuilt. So it's pretty cool. Everyone rallied together and rebuilt the recreation of Fort Clatsop. Okay, now we're going to circle around to the Columbia River Gorge, to Hood River and BINGEN, Washington. Again, a little Washington foray across the river. Mount Hood, of course, is sort of the highlight of the Hood River area. It's so pretty to drive up if you're coming from Bend, to drive up the highway that goes around the east side of the mountain up to Hood River. You really get a unique vantage of the mountain that you don't see when you're just beelining over to Portland. Super pretty day in this photo. This is I think everyone's familiar with the historic Columbia Scenic Highway that folks drive. There's also a portion of the old historic Columbia Highway that is banned from cars and is just for bicycles or pedestrians. And it's to the east of Hood River, and there's a good like 7-mile section that you can cycle. It's pretty flat even. It's, you know, it's up along the hill here. I'm not a like manic cyclist, so I really don't like fighting with cars, and I really don't want to go a super long ways. And this is a perfect little journey. You can even take the kids up there and cycle along the road with these great views of the gorge. And then there's a couple of tunnels that run through there as well. I really recommend that if you are a cyclist like me, who's not super brave, but wants all the great views and experience of getting out there. So the Society Hotel in Bingen is just across the, oh, I just realized I spelled Washington wrong. That's embarrassing. It's across the river from Hood River. This is a new hotel. It actually, we visited the weekend. We left Bend before the pandemic and drove back to Bend during the pandemic. That's an oversimplification, but it was the days that in early March when everything started to get really real, and we came back to like toilet paper frenzies, etc. But it was a really wonderful, wonderful getaway. They put all this spa in here that's just amazing, with 3 or 4 different pools. There's a sauna, and there's a cold plunge, which was something I'd never experienced before, but it's quite the rage and supposed to be really healthy for you. And I thought, well, that sounds, we'll see. But because I was writing about it, I had to give it a try, and it was actually quite remarkable. There's nothing quite like a cold plunge, especially when you know you can pop into the sauna afterwards and warm up. It was pretty cool. It's up there on the hill too, with a view of the gorge. Eastern Oregon, we're circling clockwise around the state. I find Eastern Oregon to be the section of Oregon that still is the least visited. People are most likely to have not really explored Eastern Oregon, and it's also the largest of the 7 Oregon regions, and there's so much to see out there, and it's so amazing. And these days also, you know, even during the pandemic, was valued because it's pretty wide open. You know, you're not going to run into a lot of people out there. I can barely touch the surface of Eastern Oregon in this talk, but I'm going to hit a couple favorite spots. This is my daughter several years ago in Fossil. The town of Fossil is within the John Day Fossil Beds National Monument area, and you cannot collect fossils within the National Monument. That's against the law, but there is a hillside behind Fossil High School where it is legal to collect them. And there's just this pile of shards. And if you look closely at what she's holding, the darker kind of orangey sections on those rocks are leaf fossil imprints. And there's so many of them that they still just let people come right on in and gather them up, which is kind of remarkable. And of course, the kids love it. We brought many home. This is in Baker City, the National Historic Oregon Trail Interpretive Center. Of course, the Oregon Trail is still a big part of Oregon's history, you know, even in these times of social justice, which I really appreciate. I think people are reframing the way we talk about some of these things, which is good, but you know, it's still a huge, huge part of our history. This interpretive center is amazing. It's another place that I find a lot of people haven't been to because Baker's just slightly out of the way, but it is an amazing museum with a lot of great interpretation about the Oregon Trail and the experiences that the journeyers had on their way over here. This is my girls and the Blue Mountains in the distance and the Baker Valley, Powder River Valley, I think. Here's a wagon on site there. And then you can actually see the ruts in places, which is kind of amazing. I mean, just to think about how long ago those were made and that you can still see some of them is kind of crazy. I'm just gonna keep going because I'm happy to answer questions about any region of the state once we get through. I want to know what people are curious about. This is the Geyser Grand Hotel in Baker City, which is so cool. It was opened in 1889 during the gold rush and closed for a long time and then renovated at the price of millions. Now it's probably been like 20 years ago, I think, that they did that remodel, but it is such a cool place. We stayed there a couple times, and in fact, it's you know, you get that much history, and there are ghosts on the property that throw parties on the top floor, I've been told, and will move your belongings around in your room. None of this happened to us. I can't say any of it happened to us, but I've heard lots of stories. And there's also still some bullet holes in that clock tower from the gunfights that used to happen in the gold rush days on Main Street in Baker. So, you know, lots of charm and story. Central Oregon, I'm assuming many, if not all of you, live in Central Oregon, even though we can zoom in from anywhere. I've been in Bend for 25 years now, somehow. I'm that old. But Camp Sherman is one of my favorite places in Central Oregon. And even, you know, as Bend has gotten busier and busier and busier, I still, maybe this is like giving away the secrets, but I still find Camp Sherman to be a place that you can go and really kind of get away. And, you know, it's pretty quiet there. There's still not cell service much, and I think that's great. And it's just quiet. It's sort of like going back in time. It was founded as a getaway by Sherman County sheep farmers 100 years ago-ish. And so that's why it's called Camp Sherman. They came out of Sherman County and set up camp for the summer there because it was cooler getaway. And there's still some resorts there that have been there a really long time. The Camp Sherman store is a gem of a little country store where you can find just about anything from these days, from fly fishing gear to an espresso to a sandwich to a bottle of wine to, actually, I think they sell some of my books. So it's a fun little place, and it definitely still kind of feels like going back in time, even though you can buy an espresso. So that's like the best of both worlds, right? And ice cream. Here's my mom and my girls, a little ice cream. Another thing the kids love in Camp Sherman is the Wizard Falls Fish Hatchery. I checked just the other day, and I'm not sure it's reopened since COVID, but I'm hoping that that's going to happen really soon, that maybe the website has just not been updated. But it's such a fun little place to go. You can put a quarter in a machine and get a fistful of fish food and throw it in the ponds where the fish are growing, and they just jump. And it's also a really nice place to just have a picnic. There's picnic tables and a little view of Black Butte and It's just a nice place to hang out. So here's the kids feeding the fish. Subtle Lake is nearby. This is my daughter with a teepee. Subtle Lake is great because it's kind of a resort with a little bit of everything. You can go there and have lunch. You could take a hike around the lake. You can hang out on the beach. It's right off the highway, so it's easily accessible. They also have cabins and lodging, and it does also feel a little bit like going back in time. Southern Oregon, another large region with a lot to talk about. But we're going to kind of stick with history and talk a little bit about the Wolf Creek Inn, which was, I believe, opened in 1883, I think, before the Geyser Grand even. And it was a stop on the Applegate Trail, which was an offshoot of the Oregon Trail. And, you know, stagecoach rolls up, people can find lodging and food in 1883, and it's still operating. I think that they claim to be the longest operating lodging in the state, and it's actually run by state parks now, I think, but you can still rent a room there. You can walk in and have lunch. It's pretty cool. It's right off of I-5. It's not, if you're on the I-5, it's really easy to pop off and just take a peek at it in the community of Wolf Creek. Of course, the Rogue River is a big destination down in Southern Oregon. I think that a lot of people associate it with whitewater rafting, but there's a lot of other ways to experience the river too. This is a friend of mine paddleboarding in a kind of eddy at near the Morrison'S Lodge, which is a wonderful little old lodge right on the Rogue. And this is my daughter jumping into the pool. So there's a pool there, and then, you know, literally 100 yards away is the river, and you can really kind of enjoy the whole experience on the Rogue there without being a whitewater rafter or, you know, some of the other more wild ways to enjoy the river. Or you can do that too. There's lots of great fishing as well. Morrison's runs rafting and fishing trips out of their location. And then this Parrott House in Roseburg, another very old building, I think the 1890s. It was a home at that point. One of the founders of Roseburg built it. And a few years ago, a woman renovated it into this amazing destination restaurant, which, I mean, if you're in Roseburg, you've got to go to this place. This is just the tip of the iceberg with this photo, because she built like a huge kind of covered arbor out back where there are weddings and events, but the building itself is worth seeing. The grounds are really beautiful and the food's really good. So I think Roseburg is definitely kind of an off the beaten path location in Oregon still. You know, we're speaking of like post-pandemic and how busy some places have gotten lately. I think Roseburg is yet to be discovered in some ways, and it has a lot of charms. It's got a lot of the same outdoor adventure opportunities as other bigger places in Southern Oregon, but it's also starting to get some great restaurants and stuff like the Parrott House. There's also hotels right on the road, or sorry, the Umpqua there that are great to stay at as well. So Roseburg's, that's my hot real estate tip too. Get it before everyone else does. Willamette Valley, also lots to say. There's so much in the Willamette Valley. We're just gonna look at some pretty flowers. This is actually the dahlias. I think I mislabeled this because those are not tulips. But there's several flower festivals that happen in the spring over in the valley that are not very off the beaten path. I mean, you may have to drive through some farmland to find them. but there usually are quite a few people there. They're big events, but there's still, you can spread out and it's really, really fun. Here's my daughters at the Wooden Shoe Tulip Festival on actually quite a windy, blustery spring day, but the flowers are still on full display. And they also have food and fun things to do at the flower festivals. It's another thing that I think is perfect for multi-generational trips. You know, the grandparents love it, the kids love it. The Albany Carousel Museum, this is another place with a great story. So the community founded the organization from absolutely nothing in the basement of a sort of community hall. They brought together volunteers, all volunteer-led, carvers and painters with this dream of making a carousel. They literally started with nothing and raised the money and brought in artists and created all of the animals from scratch and found a mechanism, a carousel mechanism, and then built the building. It took 15, 20 years to do this whole process. And now it is this amazing place where you go and you buy the tokens, and there are all of these gorgeous animals that you can choose to ride, and the kids love it, and the building's beautiful. And I just think it's such a labor of love to think, you know, we're going to build this whole thing from the ground up. So I definitely recommend Albany as a stop for that. Plus Albany is just really charming and still, again, kind of off the beaten path a bit. It's got a lot of history as well. There's a lot of beautiful architecture in Albany, and there's a self-guided architecture tour. You can walk around and see all these old amazing homes, and some great restaurants there as well. The Enchanted Forest, I have to mention, even though again, I maybe not so off the beaten path, it's right on I-5, but I think the Enchanted Forest is such an Oregon story. It was built by a family starting in the late 60s, and it's just quirky and wonderful, and it could really use our help right now because it was closed for so long, because, you know, of course, amusement parks are one of the toughest things to reopen, and, you know, it's still family owned and just a kick to visit. And my daughters have never gotten tired of it, even though they're teenagers now. You know, they really love going there, and I do too. It's just, it's got a lot of personality, and it's not that expensive either. I mean, you know, you're not going to Disneyland, so definitely recommend that. The Mount Angel Abbey is a magical place that I just didn't actually visit until probably 5 years ago. And it's an actual working abbey and school. The monks study here. There's an amazing research library, but it's also open to the public. And it's perched on this hill outside of Mount Angel, and you can go walk the grounds, and you can go in the library, which is this incredible architectural structure that's sort of perched on the hill with these killer views. And it's just peaceful. I mean, it's funny, it's hard to explain, but it's so peaceful up there. And just to walk around for a few minutes is really, it feels like such a treat. And it has great views too. And then a few years they opened a brewery. So the monks actually have been brewing for a long time. They actually opened a brewery down at the bottom of the hill. So you can go walk around at the monastery and then have a beer down with the views of this farmland. My husband grew up in Iowa, and he said that this part of Oregon felt the most Iowa to him. So all the farmland and the big old hardwood trees, and maybe the beer too. And we ended up staying at the Atticus Hotel, which is a newer hotel in McMinnville. McMinnville has become very upscale in lots of great ways, and they built this just outstanding hotel. And this is the bunkhouse room. Those are beds in the wall. You can see my daughter's feet sticking out. So there's a bed sort of behind where the picture frame is. king size bed, and then there are these beds in the wall. And I've never seen anything like it. It was such a fun room to stay in. Groups, families, but also I've heard like, book clubs go book the room and go wine tasting and hang out in McMinnville. Okay, we're back at the coast because that's where I always come back to and where I am right now, in fact. So the coast is where I grew up, and it's always kind of the section of Oregon that's the closest to my heart. Here's some more clam digging down at Siletz Bay. Actually, it's purple varnish clams here instead of the long neck clams up in Long Beach. Look at her shoes. Like, definitely don't wear your brand new Nikes like we did. Bring some boots. It's so muddy. It's different than the Long Beach experience with the sand. This is mud. But they had a great time. And then we went to Prehistoric Rocks, which is a shop where you can find fossils and minerals and get your child's head eaten by a T-Rex. There's lots of fun, beachy shops in Lincoln City. And this one's great. The kids can spend hours looking at rocks. It's funny. Drift Creek Falls is just outside of Lincoln City. It's just to the east a bit on a Forest Service road. So it's just hard enough to reach that it doesn't get too crowded, although I think the secret's out. You can see the suspension bridge so you actually come in over the top of the waterfall from behind. It's only a couple mile hike, but that bridge is pretty cool. You come in that way, you can look down on the waterfall. It's a great little hike, not too hard, although somewhat steep. Lincoln City is kind of known for glass blowing, and this is me doing a glass blowing with the helper guy at the Lincoln City Glass Center and my daughter a few years ago, and then the product at home. I think it's interesting. You see the color is much different once it cools. And it's not, you go down there, you can watch the glass blowing happen, or you can pay to do this experience, or you can just buy a finished product. But it's so worthwhile to check out what they've got. And they've got some stuff that's inexpensive all the way up to huge, amazing pieces of glass art. And now we're going to say goodbye till next time. This is my daughter on the beach at Lincoln City. So I'm going to stop the screen share and open it up for questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. If anybody has questions about the book, destinations, excuse me, maybe you want to share one. I will say that we spent a week in Rockaway right before Memorial Day. I love Rockaway Beach. But we took my 3-year-old nephew on the train from Rockaway to Garibaldi, and I'd never done it. And it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And really not expensive. And
that's cool.
Yeah. And it's kind of, they still have, it's like every other seat for, social distancing and whatnot. But even that wasn't very full. So I can say that if you're going over there, please visit them, because that little train needs to keep running. It's so cute. Yeah, I really liked it. So
yeah, it's so true. Like, so many places in Oregon just really need our love right now. If you've got some pocket change, go ride the train.
and little towns too. We have some family that has a second home, and I say home, but it's a cute little double wide manufactured home. I mean, it's old school from the 70s in Nehalem Bay.
Okay.
And, it's a really small area, I don't think that people think to stop at Manzanita and Nehalem, it's, Seaside Canyon or keep going on to Tillamook or something. And I love Nehalem.
Yeah.
One of my favorite places.
Yeah. That's last year, my book Day Trips to the Oregon Coast came out. We had events scheduled, as you recalled, Julie, and then of course those were all canceled. But I know those destinations are all in that book, as some of them are also in this Oregon Off the Beaten Path book too. So
I do want to thank everybody for being here. As Faith just said, watching from her apartment. We really appreciate that everyone has continued our Zoom events, because we know Zoom is not everybody's favorite. But as Kim pointed out, it does give us a lot of opportunity to be able to talk to more people and include more people in these events. So, if you're not from the area and you want to get a copy of the book from Roundabout, please give us a call. We'd be happy to ship it anywhere. And the book did just come out last week, because the wonderful world of publishing, but it's only been out for about 5 days. So, yeah.
Yeah, they delayed it. I don't know why.
I don't think you ever know. I mean, all the things I've done with publishing, it just doesn't make any sense. But
Right.
Actually, since we didn't get to talk about your day trips to the Oregon coast, do you want to plug a few of those right now? Just fun ones that you can think of off the top of your head?
Well, I guess in general, what I've been telling people lately is that, the Northern Oregon coast is really busy. As you were just saying, Julie, that it's nice to hit some of the in-between towns, not the ones that are really just so popular, like Manzanita and Cannon Beach and Seaside. They get a lot of day trippers from Portland and the Valley, especially when it's hot in the summer. So I would say definitely check out some of the in-between towns, and those are all in my Oregon Coast book. But the other thing I'll say emphatically is that the Southern Oregon coast is off the hook beautiful. And it's a further drive, it's more remote. I think people maybe don't know if they're going to find any services down there. They're more hesitant to go down there, but it is absolutely beautiful. And there are lots of great restaurants and hotels hidden along the way. Of course, not as many as the Northern Oregon coast, but you're also not going to run into as many people. And I would say, if you haven't been down that way, make it a bucket list. Port Orford and Gold Beach and Brookings are so pretty. And there's
really
a lot of
golf down there too, isn't there? Like in Bandon.
Oh yeah, Bandon has those world-class golf courses that people fly in from all over the world to. Yeah, so there's a lot of information in that book about the Southern Oregon coast too, which has sort of become the talk in Oregon travel is, the Northern Oregon coast, they're like uncle, and the Southern Oregon coast is like, come on down, and I think everyone on the coast would agree with that. It's just, there's so much to be discovered still down south. So, and there's a couple of amazing, to get specific, Tututan Lodge, which is outside of Gold Beach on the road, is an amazing place to stay. Every room faces the river. It's so peaceful and beautiful. They have amazing food. And then there's another place called Wild Spring Resort, which is in Port Orford, that is these little cabins in the woods, and you feel like you're surrounded by fairies and magical forest. It's just such a lush little forest getaway, and they have this big soaking pool, and just truly a hidden gem.
I think there's a lot of those hidden gems that that may even be just taking a walk away from where everybody else is. On the McKenzie Pass and stuff like that. But I love that you mentioned Camp Sherman. My mom just spent the week out there so that she could skip 4th of July madness. And we went last summer as well. And I will say that it does get, I would call, still busy, like all the campsites will get filled, but it's one of the quietest camping experiences I've ever had. Because for a little loop that had like 10 spots, everybody was quiet. Like, it wasn't those big campgrounds where you can hear everyone and trucks starting and whatever. And I really enjoyed, and you're right, there's no cell phone service. If you want it, you have to drive in your sisters. But that was kind of interesting to really get unplugged that way, of being like forced, where I'm like, okay, my phone doesn't work. I'm going to read 3 books this weekend. So.
Right. Yeah, I find it really rewarding, especially with teenagers, sometimes to disconnect from the Wi-Fi and just go be in the woods.
Absolutely. Yeah, Oregon is quite a treasure, and I will admit that as a local, sometimes I forget that there are some really easy, inexpensive, free things to do around here that, you know, if you ask your friend, they'll might tell you a place that you've never heard about, and then maybe no one knows about, and so it can be
Yep.
quiet. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
some really fun stuff. Well, thank you so much for doing that presentation on this book. And I just want to remind everyone, we have all of Kim's books at the store. Your memoir comes out or is already out.
It's out. Yep.
Okay, good. But we have an event with you in about 3 weeks for that. So that's going to be really fun. But yeah, so if you're looking to discover, explore Oregon, the coast, day trips to Portland, I mean, Kim pretty much has you covered for any travel book you would need about the state of Oregon. I love that. I mean, you're so, it's like the passion, your project of Oregon is very cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Like people ask, you know, why didn't you become an international travel writer? And it's like, well, because I live in the best place on earth. Oregon's awesome.
It's true. It's true. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us tonight. We hope everyone is staying cool in this fun heat, although so much better than being 111 degrees last week. I just want to remind everyone, we have extended our hours at the store. We are 10 to 6 Monday through Thursday, 10 to 5 Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And again, we really hope to see people in person, both at book clubs and events like this coming very soon. So stay well, keep reading, and we'll see you around. All right.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.